Hello, film scholars. In recent years I've been asked what's the single greatest film of the 1980s, and I've gotten answers such as Indiana Jones, The Shining, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Back to the Future. But the single greatest film of the 1980s is Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. It's directed by Irvin Kershner and produced by George Lucas. The film was released in 1980 and was an instant classic, just like the first one. It had exceeded the expectations that were set for it and dealt with the difficult pressure of being a sequel to an already amazing film. George Lucas had the opportunity of a lifetime and decided to self-fund the project because he didn't want any large corporations with their hands on the film. Although he provided $18 million to the film, he still ran a little short with money and needed to go to investors that were willing to provide him some financial aid to finish the product of the film. And the end budget resulted in $30 million, but it made up for that in making an astounding $550 million in 1980. The film is picking up right where we left off with Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, and Darth Vader. The film is absolutely wonderful, leaving memorable lines such as, "No, I am your father," and is often misquoted as, "No, Luke, I am your father," or the introduction of fun characters such as Boba Fett, Yoda, and the Emperor. The film has lots of worldview hints of Buddhism, and the entire premise of the Jedi is based off of the samurai warrior of Japan, and this notion of the spiritual essence behind the Force. And Lucas finally has the opportunity to build on this new concept, which is purely his own throughout movie history, and the concept of the Force being explained by Yoda, who's played by Frank Oz. And the film itself is absolutely wonderful. It's not just because of the cultural significance that Star Wars leaves with us, but the film work. Early on, George Lucas wanted to spare no expense and authenticity for this film, and he made props and made stage sets and filming locations. Where in Norway for Hoth, the Dagobah system is an entire set built. The props of the Imperial walkers, of the Tauntauns, and of Yoda himself is made a puppet. Lucas wanted to stay away from CGI because he felt that it wasn't authentic enough, and it proves so, because CGI oftentimes, the longer it ages, it looks more and more fake. But for a film in the 1980s, it definitely stands well, being 40 years after the film has been released. And the storyline itself is absolutely wonderful, with Han Solo and Princess Leia having their little love-hate relationship, and Luke Skywalker going on a journey seeking training from Master Yoda to find more of the truth in his powers and knowing the knowledge of the Force. Most of the film work is filmed in a low-angle shot. Most of the times, a lot of the space sequences are taking a Dutch angle approach, giving it that sense of a lack of gravity, or the ship of the Millennium Falcon swaying and going through. And it's a fun cast. The actors, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and James Earl Jones, had fun having the opportunity to come back and work with each other and make another masterpiece. And we can see that throughout culture today. Because of the success of Empire Strikes Back, Lucas was able to further create Star Wars movies. He came out with The Return of the Jedi after this, and was able to expand on the universe and create something that was truly his own. Artur theory is not evident in this film. It was a shock to me when I found out Lucas did not direct this film. It was directed by Irvin Kershner, but Kershner often went to Lucas because Lucas had created the origins of Star Wars. It was his story, and a lot of the guidance that Kershner got was because of Lucas, and we see that George Lucas's hands are all over Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, and it's been a great influence on our culture today, and it still stands as one of the greatest films of the 1980s.